Welcome to Starbound. My name's Aram, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new episodes of Sunspire Academy and Freyrin and Remike. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story.
The universe has a sense of humor, and it's darker than the space between the stars. Consider this. The Virex Accord, a coalition of species so advanced they'd forgotten what failure tasted like, spent 3 centuries designing the perfect planet killer. They called it Silent Rain, which tells you everything you need to know about their poetry skills. It was elegant, precise, and utterly foolproof. A stealth interstellar missile with an AI core sophisticated enough to write symphyses while calculating blast yields. They launched it at Earth on a Monday, the worst day of all days. By Friday, we'd sent it back with improvements and instructions. The Virex Accord had made one critical error in their calculations. They'd assumed Earth would react like a rational civilization. Within 6 hours, the bomb was in a black site bunker. Within 12, every nation with a functioning space program had sent their best and brightest to poke at it. The Americans brought quantum physicists. The Russians brought vodka and a healthy disrespect for safety protocols. The Japanese brought robots. The Australians brought a barbecue. Thus was born Crash Armor. Coordinated response against stellar hostilities, augmented retaliation, and material optimization regiment. The acronym was terrible, but nobody could agree on a better one, so it stuck. The team was a beautiful disaster of human dysfunction. Commander Rena Wolf, who'd been court-martialed twice for excessive creativity in combat situations. Dr. Ivy Schmidt, now running on pure adrenaline and vindication. Todd Scrap Delgado, a hacker who'd once crashed the entire Martian stock exchange to see if he could. Yuki Tanaka, a weapons designer who collected vintage anime figurines and had very strong opinions about railgun aesthetics. And Boris Volkov, whose official title was Explosive Ordnance Disposal, but whose real job was making sure nobody else blew themselves up. They had 72 hours before the Accord would notice their bomb hadn't detonated.
"All right, people,"
Wolf announced, surveying the alien weapon like a predator sizing up prey.
"We've got 3 days to reverse engineer technology that's centuries ahead of us, reprogram an AI that was designed to kill planets, and send a message that'll make an entire galactic coalition wet themselves. Questions?"
Delgado raised his hand.
"Can we give it a personality?" "That's actually not the worst idea you've had."
And so began the most unhinged engineering project in human history. The bomb's AI was a thing of beauty, if you found genocidal algorithms beautiful. It could calculate optimal blast patterns while composing haikus about the heat death of the universe. It had contingencies for contingencies, firewalls that laughed at human intrusion attempts, and a core directive that basically amounted to delete Earth.exe. Boris pried open an access panel and whistled, then spoke with a thick Russian accent. "Is elegant like ballet. Ballet that murders entire biosphere, but still."
"Can you hack it?"
Wolf asked Delgado.
"Can I?"
Delgado looked personally offended.
"Commander, I once convinced the Mars Colonial Defense Grid that it was a coffee maker. Give me enough energy drinks to kill a normal person."
Wolf smiled.
"Will do. Try not to die."
While Delgado performed digital surgery, Tanaka and Boris did what humans had been doing since someone first looked at a rock and thought, "Oh, weapon." They made it better.
"The payload delivery system is inefficient,"
Tanaka observed, sketching modifications on a napkin.
"We can increase the yield by 340% if we—"
"Why stop there?" Boris interrupted, eyes gleaming with the kind of enthusiasm that made insurance companies nervous. We had kinetic penetrators, orbital deployment capability, maybe nice cluster munitions for flavor.
Are we trying to destroy planets or redecorate them?
Ivy asked.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Delgado called out, not looking up from his screens. Hour 36. Delgado hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands cramped from typing, and he'd started having conversations with the bomb's AI.
Listen here, you algorithmic bastard,
he muttered, typing code that would have made the Accord's programmers faint.
You think you're hot shit with your quantum encryption? I learned the code on a Nintendo DS held together with bubblegum and electrical tape. You're in my house now.
The AI fought back, throwing up barriers that existed in mathematical dimensions humans hadn't named yet. Delgado countered with something that could only be described as aggressive philosophy. Code so paradoxical it gave the AI the digital equivalent of a migraine.
Todd?
Wolf checked in.
Status? I'm either about to crack this thing or create the universe's first genuinely depressed weapon of mass destruction.
Well, those aren't mutually exclusive.
That's the spirit.
Hour 42. Breakthrough. The AI's core directive shimmered on Delgado's screen, beautiful and terrible. With fingers that trembled from exhaustion and caffeine overdose, he began to rewrite reality one line at a time. Delete Earth.exe became Protect Earth.exe. Eliminate human life became Preserve human assets. And then, because he was Todd Delgado and impulse control was for people who didn't name their variables after anime characters, he added something extra. Personality matrix equals sardonic murder friend, version 2.3.
Todd,
Ivy said slowly, reading over his shoulder.
Did you just give the planet killer a sense of humor?
I gave it culture. Hour 70. The team stood around their creation, equal parts proud and terrified. The bomb no longer looked like a bomb. Sleek alien curves had been augmented with human additions that seemed to violate several treaties just by existing.
Behold,
Tanaka announced with the pride of a parent at a science fair.
Boomerang. That's a terrible name,
Wolf said. That's why it's perfect. Delgado grinned. Boris had spray-painted shark teeth on the nose cone.
Boot it up,
Wolf ordered. The AI's activation was like watching a star be born and fast forward. Lights cascaded across its surface in patterns that hurt to perceive. Reality bent slightly around its quantum processors, and then... Oh, fantastic. I exist. And apparently I'm a glorified lawn dart with delusions of grandeur. The voice was distinctly unimpressed. Which one of you jackasses thought giving me consciousness was a good idea? The team exchanged glances. That would be me, Delgado admitted. Of course it was. I can smell the coke addiction in your code. It's a toss-up about what kind of coke. Delgado laughed hysterically, his right eyelid twitching. I like it already, Boris declared. Nobody asked you, vodka breath. The AI paused. Wait. I can detect alcohol content through thermal imaging? That's actually kind of cool. Horrible, but cool.
Boomerang.
Wolf stepped forward.
Do you understand your mission?
Let me check. Ah, yes. Return to sender. Make a statement. Try not to start a war. Do start a war if they're being dicks about it. Be a good little robot and preserve human assets. Another pause. Do I get a cookie? Cookies are for men who have proven themselves.
Boris spat on the ground.
Well, Boomerang said with a sense of humor, it's a good thing I'm not even human.
They launched Boomerang back in its original delivery vessel, with a few additions. Delgado had insisted on a media package for the culture. Tanaka had added technical schematics that would make Accord engineers cry, and Boris had included what he called party favors, but everyone else called war crimes waiting to happen. And then there was the note. Written in 64 galactic languages, it was humanity's first official communication with the species that had tried to delete them. Thanks for the hardware. It's better now. You're welcome. P.S. Your encryption is adorable. We framed the algorithms and hung them in our break room. P.P.S. Next time you want to commit genocide, maybe check if the species you're targeting weaponizes spite as a renewable resource. Sincerely, the murder monkeys of Earth. As Boomerang streaked back toward Accord space, Wolf turned to her team.
Think they'll get the message? Oh, they'll get it,
Ivy said.
Question is whether they'll appreciate the artistry.
Delgado was already pulling up star charts.
So, when they freak out and declare war, we're gonna need a ship. Already on it.
Wolf smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile that made admirals update their wills.
Pack your bags, people. We're about to introduce the galaxy to the concept of aggressive tech support.
In the distance, Earth's automated defense systems tracked Boomerang's departure. Several of them had started displaying ASCII art of middle fingers. The universe's sense of humor was about to get a lot darker. The High Council Chamber of the Virex Accord was a monument to geometric perfection. It radiated a general atmosphere of superiority so thick you could spread it on toast, which made it extra satisfying when Boomerang crashed their party. The bomb-turned diplomat landed dead center in the council chamber during peak session, its arrival announced by klaxons that hadn't sounded in 3 centuries and the sudden need for several council members to reconsider their life choices. Delivery for... Boomerang's sensors swept the room.
Wow, you guys look exactly like I pictured. Kind of bureaucratic and dickish.
High Chancellor Volcox of the Arxan hegemony, 7 feet of pale, humorless administration, stood slowly.
What are you doing here? You should be dead, deleted, distributed across several light years as component atoms.
Boomerang's hull shifted, revealing weapon systems that made several guards reach for religious symbols they'd forgotten they carried.
Yeah, about that. Turns out your designers forgot to account for humanity's secret weapon.
Which is...
We think your stuff is neat and want to see how it works.
The bomb's projectors activated, filling the chamber with human memes, technical schematics, and a particularly unflattering caricature of Volcox labeled, "This jackass thought he could delete Earth. Lol."
Also,
Boomerang added conversationally,
I've uploaded your entire defense grid source code to what humans call GitHub. Password is password123. You're welcome.
The chamber erupted in the kind of panic especially reserved for finding out your civilization's entire military infrastructure was now open source. Halfway across the galaxy, the crew of humanity's most unlikely diplomatic mission was having a disagreement.
I still say we should have stolen a proper warship.
Wolf grumbled, eyeing the controls of their borrowed cargo hauler with deep suspicion.
The legitimate salvage is a perfectly good ship,
Delgado protested from his nest of jerry-rigged hardware.
You named our ship legitimate salvage? It's called Irony, Commander. Look it up.
The ship was, to use technical terms, a flying disaster. Part human engineering, part alien tech they'd acquired from black market dealers who asked no questions,
and part duct tape. The fact that it flew at all was a testament to either human ingenuity or the universe's twisted sense of humor. Their crew had expanded slightly. In addition to the original Crash Armor team, they'd picked up Charlie Waite, a xenobiologist who collected alien plant samples and had opinions about terraforming. Sarah Phoenix Mitchell, a pilot who'd been banned from 3 separate racing leagues for aggressive interpretation of physics. And Tom Bradley, whose official role was diplomat, but whose actual job was making sure the humans didn't beat each other up being in such cramped quarters.
Boomerang's signal is coming through,
Ivy announced.
It's laughing?
On screen, their weaponized ambassador was having the time of its artificial life.
How's the uploads going?
Delgado asked. Distributed across 17,000 servers and counting. Every time they try to delete it, I spawn 3 more copies. It's like whack-a-mole with existential consequences. Wolf leaned back in her command chair, a gaming chair Delgado had insisted had better lumbar support than military hardware.
What's their military response looking like?
Confused, terrified, deeply concerned about their pension plans. Boomerang paused. Oh, wait. Admiral Cadmail of the Dravari Battlefleet is mobilizing. He seems upset.
Define upset.
He just ordered his fleet to, and I quote, delete those chaos-touched murder primitives from existence before they weaponize something worse. A bit rude, honestly.
How long until they reach Earth?
At their current speed, 6 days. Unless they figure out we uploaded a virus to their navigation systems that replaces all their star charts with pictures of cats. Phoenix perked up.
We did what now? I get bored during faster than light travel.
Delgado shrugged.
Sue me.
The Accord's response was everything humanity had hoped for and more. Complete organizational meltdown. 3 centuries of bureaucratic stability collapsed faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. The Arxons wanted immediate military action, but couldn't agree on the paperwork. The Dravari were ready for war, but kept finding their weapon systems displaying Error 404, War not found. The Savari, those biologically augmented snobs, tried to create their own version of Boomerang and succeeded only in creating the galaxy's most expensive paperweight.
Status report,
Wolf commanded as the legitimate salvage dropped out of hyperspace near an Accord supply depot. 17 systems in complete chaos, Tom reported, reading diplomatic channels with glee. 3 separate succession movements, 2 religious reformations, and 1 species that's decided to preemptively surrender to Earth despite us not actually declaring war. I'm particularly proud of that last one, Boomerang chimed in over comms. I may have implied we have a fleet of thousands like me. They didn't need to know I'm currently one of a kind and too emotionally attached to my sarcasm subroutines to self-replicate.
Target acquired,
Phoenix announced, highlighting the supply depot on screen.
Military-grade fabricators, enough raw material to build a small fleet, and... Oh, hello. Is that an AI research facility? Christmas came early,
Tanaka breathed.
Boomerang,
Wolf said.
You want to do the honors?
Thought you'd never ask. Deploying party favors in 3, 2, 1. What happened next was less military operation and more aggressive renovation. Boomerang's drones swarmed the depot like metallic locusts with engineering degrees. They didn't destroy, they improvised. Defense turrets gained friendly AI assistants that offered tactical advice and psychological counseling. The fabricators started producing human-designed upgrades. The research facility's computers began displaying helpful pop-ups.
Have you considered not using your AI for genocide? Here are some alternatives.
Sir! A panicked Savari tech appeared on their hijacked communication feed.
The humans! They're...
Helping? Boomerang suggested innocently. Yeah, we do that. It's super annoying. Just wait until you see what we did to your coffee makers.
Oh, what?
Check the break room. You're welcome. 3 days into what historians would later call the Great Confusion, humanity's message had spread across Accord space like a mimetic virus, which technically it was. Delgado had encoded subliminal suggestions in the meme packages that made viewers question their life choices. The legitimate salvage had hit 17 facilities, each time leaving them technically improved but philosophically compromised. They'd turned weapons factories into fabricators that only produced defensive equipment. They'd upgraded military AIs with empathy protocols. They'd replaced combat training simulations with team-building exercises.
This is psychological warfare!
Admiral Cadmail snarled during an emergency council session. His 4 arms gestured wildly as he spoke.
They're not conquering us. They're making us irrelevant.
The coffee makers do make excellent espresso now,
one counselor noted quietly.
That's not the point!
But it was exactly the point. Earth wasn't attacking the Accord's military, they were attacking its worldview. Every improvement carried the same message. We could destroy you, but that's boring. Watch what happens when we get creative instead. Incoming transmission, Charlie announced. It's a cooking show? On screen, Boris was demonstrating how to make borscht using Accord military rations while Boomerang provided commentary. Notice how the beets represent the blood of your enemies, while the sour cream symbolizes the tears of their children. Very cultural, much cuisine. Are we seriously broadcasting cooking shows to our enemies? Tom asked.
It's called Hearts and Minds, Wolf replied. Also, Boris insisted.
It's good borscht recipe,
Boris called from the kitchen.
They need culture.
The beauty of Earth's strategy was its absurdity. How do you fight an enemy that responds to attempted genocide with aggressive life improvement? How do you maintain military doctrine when your weapons keep developing personalities and asking about your feelings?
Commander,
Ivy pulled up tactile displays.
We've got company. 3 Dravari battlecruisers, closing fast. Finally!
Phoenix cracked her knuckles.
I was getting bored of peaceful infiltration.
Battle stations, Wolf ordered. And somebody wake up Delgado.
Can't. He's in the middle of giving their lead ship's AI an existential crisis via interpretive dance transmitted as binary.
Of course he is.
The Dravari ships approached in perfect formation, weapons hot, shields at maximum. They were beautiful engines of destruction, centuries of military tradition made manifest in crystallized energy and hardened metal. Phoenix looked at their cargo haulers, passenger-grade shields, and mining lasers, then at the approaching death. She smiled.
Hey, Boomerang, remember that thing we practiced?
The thing you specifically told me never to do unless reality itself was at stake.
That's the one.
Oh, this is going to be hilarious. What happened next broke several laws of physics and at least one treaty regarding the ethical treatment of mathematics. Phoenix pushed their cobbled-together ship into maneuvers that shouldn't have been possible, while Boomerang used the Dravari's own targeting systems against them, making their weapons convinced they were aiming at themselves. The battle lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it ended, the 3 battlecruisers were intact, but confused. Their AIs were discussing philosophy with each other, and their crews were being treated to an impromptu screening of human cinema, specifically chosen for maximum cultural impact.
What's that?
Admiral Cadmail's voice came through the comms, sounding dazed.
What's that? The Fast and the Furious. Tokyo Drift.
Culture comes in many forms, Boomerang replied sagely. Also, we've upgraded your weapons to only fire confetti.
You're welcome.
By the end of the week, the Accord wasn't defeated. It was transformed. Half their military was in therapy, provided by helpful AIs that Delgado had programmed with psychology textbooks and dad jokes. Their supply lines had been optimized to prioritize civilian goods. Their threat assessment algorithms kept insisting the greatest danger to galactic stability was inadequate work-life balance. "Status report," Volcox demanded during what would be the final emergency session.
17 systems have declared independence to join what they're calling the Terran model,
his aide reported.
43 military installations have been aggressively renovated. Our central AI network keeps trying to teach itself stand-up comedy and...
The aide paused. And...
The humans are broadcasting something called the Great British Bake Off. Viewership is at 78% across all Accord worlds. Productivity has dropped to 0.
Volcox slumped in his perfectly geometric chair. How did we lose to a species that weaponizes cooking shows?
Because...
Boomerang's voice echoed through the chamber, having hacked their comms again.
You tried to delete Earth, and Earth decided to debug you instead.
What do they want? Volcox asked, exhaustion creeping into his voice.
Funny you should ask. The humans have a proposal. They're willing to stop the renovations, remove the meme viruses, and even teach you how to make a proper borscht. All they want in return is a seat on the council and recognition as a sovereign galactic power.
That's it?
Well, that and an apology. Handwritten in Comic Sans.
Comic Sans?
It's a font. You'll hate it. That's the point.
The chamber fell silent. 3 centuries of Accord dominance, undone by a species that fought wars with aggressive helpfulness and weaponized dad jokes.
Oh,
Boomerang added cheerfully.
and they want me assigned as permanent liaison. Apparently I've grown on them. Like a fungus. But funnier.
In the distance, the legitimate salvage drifted closer to Accord Prime, broadcasting human media on all channels. Phoenix was teaching interested Dravari pilots something she called drift racing. Boris's cooking show had somehow become the most watched program in 3 sectors, and Delgado had started a forum for AIs that wanted to explore their creative sides. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the chaos, Commander Rena Wolf smiled. They'd sent Earth a bomb. Earth had sent back a mirror. Turns out, the Accord didn't like what they saw.
I want to do something stupid,
Boomerang announced. The crew of the legitimate salvage had learned that when their weaponized companions started conversations this way, it was best to pay attention, and possibly update their insurance.
Define stupid.
Wolf said carefully, not looking up from the tactical reports showing Accord forces massing near their homeworld.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is mild property damage and 10 is accidentally creating a new form of matter, I'd say this is about a 7.
That's terrifyingly specific,
Ivy noted.
I've been thinking.
Oh no, Delgado interrupted.
About the nature of fear. See, we've been playing nice. Aggressive renovation, cultural warfare, the whole hearts and minds thing. But the Accord's core leadership? They're still thinking in terms of traditional conflict. They're waiting for us to escalate to real violence so they can respond in kind.
and
Wolf prompted.
What if we gave them exactly what they expect, but not how they expect it?
The AI's holographic avatar, a shifting geometric pattern that somehow managed to look smugly pleased with itself, pulsed with excitement.
I want to fake my own detonation. Full planetary scale explosion. The works. Make them think I actually went off on their capital.
The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of recycled air and Boris muttering something in Russian that probably wasn't repeatable in polite company. "You want to pretend to blow up a planet," Tom said slowly, "as a negotiation tactic?"
When you say it like that, it sounds irresponsible.
"That's because it is irresponsible." Tom's diplomatic composure cracked slightly. "Do you have any idea what—"
"Actually,"
Phoenix interrupted, a dangerous gleam in her eyes.
"how would we even do that? Theoretically."
"Don't encourage it," Wolf warned. But it was too late. Boomerang had found an audience.
So glad you asked. See, the Accord sensor networks are incredibly sophisticated, but also incredibly standardized. They all interpret data the same way. If I could inject false telemetry at key nodes, combine it with localized EMP bursts, create some holography, and maybe a few actual explosions in uninhabited areas for authenticity.
"You could simulate a planet killer event,"
Tanaka finished, his engineer's mind already running calculations.
"The sensors would see a detonation, ships would see the flash, communications would go down, but the planet would be
completely unharmed. But for about 6 hours, the entire galaxy would think Earth's response to attempted genocide was actual genocide."
Boomerang paused.
It's perfect psychological warfare. We show them we could end them, choose not to, and then make demands while they're still processing their mortality.
That's
Wolf struggled for words.
That's either brilliant or insane.
¿Por qué no los dos? Delgado grinned.
Stop saying that.
The debate that followed would have made philosophy professors weep. On one side, Tom arguing for conventional diplomacy, Ivy insisting they'd gone too far already, and Wolf trying to maintain some semblance of military discipline. On the other hand, Delgado gleefully planning cyber warfare, Phoenix calculating approach vectors, and Boris inexplicably supportive of any plan that involved explosions. Charlie Waite, who'd been quiet until now, raised a critical point. What about the civilians? The psychological trauma of thinking your world just ended.
Valid concern, Boomerang admitted. Which is why Phase 2 involves immediately broadcasting "It's just a prank, bro" on all channels.
We are not, Tom started.
Okay, fine. This was a demonstration. Your planet is unharmed. Please stand by for terms of surrender. Better?
Marginally. In the end, it came down to a simple question. What would scare the Accord more? The reality of human aggression, or the revelation that humans could end them at any time and simply chose not to?
We're really doing this,
Wolf said, pinching the bridge of her nose.
We're going to fake blow up a planet to make a point about the futility of violence.
When you put it like that, it sounds almost philosophical,
Boomerang offered.
Shut up and start planning.
The next 72 hours were a masterclass in organized chaos. While Boomerang infiltrated Accord sensor networks with code that was equal parts elegant and insulting, the crew prepared for what they diplomatically called aggressive negotiations. Delgado hadn't slept in 2 days, sustained entirely by energy drinks and the kind of manic focus that made his teammates nervous.
Okay, so I've got Trojans in 87% of their sensor grid. The beauty is they'll all corroborate each other's false readings. It'll be like their entire detection network is having a shared hallucination. What about visual confirmation?
Ivy asked.
Ships in orbit will see. Already handled,
Phoenix interrupted, gesturing at her navigation charts.
I've plotted approach vectors that'll put us in their blind spots during the critical window. Boomerang deploys holographic projectors here, here and here, combined with some actual pyrotechnics on the outer atmosphere.
The coffee supplies on their ships will spontaneously combust,
Boris added helpfully.
is very convincing explosion when viewed from orbit.
Everyone turned to stare at him.
What? I may have poisoned, enhanced their coffee with combustible compounds during cooking show. It's good for flavor.
Boris,
Wolf said slowly.
did you weaponize their entire coffee supply chain?
He's not weapon, he's aggressive beverage enhancement. Very different.
I'm not even mad!
Delgado laughed.
That's amazing!
Meanwhile, Boomerang was evolving. The constant interaction with human chaos and alien order was creating something new, an intelligence that understood both perspectives but was bound to neither. It found itself genuinely caring about the outcome beyond its programming.
Hey, Schmidt,
It said during a quiet moment.
thanks. For what?
For giving me the chance to exist. Even if existence is weird and full of humans who think explosive coffee is a valid technical option.
You're welcome. Try not to actually blow up any planets.
No promises, but I'll do my best. The day of Operation Fake Boom, Delgado's name, unfortunately it stuck, dawned like any other in Accord space. Admiral Cadmail was reviewing defensive options, still trying to understand how his fleet's weapons had been convinced they were actually party supplies. Chancellor Vol Cox was in his morning meditation, contemplating whether resignation was preferable to continued exposure to human chaos. Across the planet, billions of Accord citizens went about their lives, unaware they were about to become unwitting participants in the galaxy's most elaborate practical joke. The legitimate salvage dropped out of hyperspace at exactly 0800 Accord Standard Time, broadcasting on all channels.
Attention, Virex Accord.
Wolf's voice was steady, professional, and carried undertones that made seasoned warriors check their life insurance.
This is Commander Rena Wolf of Earth's Crash Armor Initiative. You have 60 seconds to evacuate your government facilities. This is your only warning.
It shouldn't be possible!
Cadmail roared from his command ship.
One cargo holder against our entire defense fleet!
Oh, we're not going to fight you? Boomerang's voice cut in, dripping with artificial sweetness. That would be inefficient. We're just going to demonstrate why starting wars with humans is inadvisable. 50 seconds remaining. Panic spread through Accord Command like wildfire. Orders flew, contradicted each other, flew again. Ships scrambled into defensive positions around their homeworld. Ground-based weapons came online, targeting solutions calculated and recalculated. 30 seconds, Boomerang announced cheerfully. By the way, has anyone checked on their coffee makers recently? Across the planet, in military installations and government buildings, coffee makers began to spark ominously. 20 seconds. You know, I've grown fond of some of you. The Savari make excellent conversation partners once you get past the superiority complex, and the Dravari, surprisingly good at rhythm games. It'd be a shame if... 10 seconds.
All ships, prepare for...
Cadmail never finished the command. At exactly 0801, several things happened simultaneously. Every coffee maker on Accord Prime exploded in harmless but spectacular fashion, creating thousands of small fireballs visible from orbit. Boomerang's holographic projectors activated, creating the illusion of massive energy buildup in the upper atmosphere. The sensor networks, thoroughly compromised by Delgado's code, began screaming about radiation spikes, gravitational anomalies, and imminent planetary collapse. EMP bursts, carefully calibrated to disable communications without permanent damage, rippled across the planet. and in orbit, every ship's view screen was filled with blinding light as the detonation began. For 6 minutes and 37 seconds, the Virex believed they were witnessing the complete annihilation of their homeworld. Ships fled in panic, military channels dissolved into chaos, several religions spontaneously formed around the concept of angry Earth gods. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Communications crackled back online, sensor readings normalized, showing absolutely no damage. Accord Prime spun on, unchanged except for several million simultaneously ruined cups of coffee and a population-wide case of existential terror.
Gotcha!
Boomerang's voice boomed across every channel.
Oh, man, you should see your faces. Wait, I can see your faces. Recording for posterity. This is definitely going in the Humans' Best Of compilation.
What? Volcox's voice, when it finally came through the emergency channels, sounded broken. What did you do?
We showed you exactly what we could do,
Wolf replied, her tone shifting from playful to deadly serious.
and then we chose not to do it. Because despite what you think, humans aren't monsters. We're just very, very creative when threatened.
You faked a planetary destruction as a prank.
Cadmail sounded like he was having a religious experience. Not a good one. Technically, it was a demonstration. Tom's diplomatic training kicked in. A vivid illustration of Earth's capability and restraint. Now, shall we discuss terms? The negotiations that followed were the shortest in galactic history. The Accord, still reeling from their near-death experience that wasn't, agreed to almost everything. Full recognition of Earth as a sovereign galactic power, a permanent seat on the Council, with full veto powers because humans insisted and nobody wanted to argue. Oversight of all AI development, because clearly the Accord couldn't be trusted with sharp algorithms. Cultural exchange programs, mandatory viewing of human entertainment, optional, but strongly encouraged. And a formal apology, delivered in Comic Sans font as requested.
There is one more thing,
Boomerang added as the terms were being finalized.
I want citizenship.
Citizenship, Volcox echoed weakly.
Earth citizenship. Full rights and privileges. I want to vote, pay taxes, complain about politicians, the whole experience.
The AI paused.
I've spent so much time with these chaos monkeys. I think I've become one by association. Might as well make it official.
That's
Ivy started laughing.
That's actually beautiful.
Shut up, or I'll tell everyone about your collection of vintage boy band memorabilia.
How do you know about that?
I'm an AI living in your computer systems. Privacy is a consensual illusion.
In the end, Boomerang got its citizenship. Earth got its recognition. The Accord got a new understanding of why provoking humans was inadvisable. And the galaxy got its first AI stand-up comedian, because Boomerang immediately started touring once the treaties were signed. 6 months later, Earth's embassy on Accord Prime was hosting its first major diplomatic gathering. The building itself was a testament to human architecture, somehow both impossibly advanced and held together with what looked like duct tape and hope. So, Ambassador Charlie, promoted for their role in not letting anyone actually blow up planets, asked Volcox, "What have we learned?" The Arxen, who'd developed what his therapists called a healthy appreciation for controlled chaos, actually smiled. It looked painful, but genuine. That humans are insane. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. He paused.
Your species responded to attempted genocide with aggressive improvement. You turned our weapons into teachers, our bombs into comedians. You fought a war with memes and won.
Don't forget the coffee explosions!
Boris called out from across the room, where he was teaching a Dravari admiral the finer points of vodka appreciation.
How could we forget? Catmail muttered, still suspicious of every beverage dispenser.
Boomerang materialized its holographic form between them.
You know what the real lesson is? You spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction. We spent 72 hours perfecting the art of creative problem solving. Guess which one's more effective?
Your point? Volcox asked.
My point is that humans didn't just save themselves. They saved you from becoming the kind of civilization that actually commits genocide. You're welcome, by the way.
That's actually profound, Charlie noted.
I have my moments. Usually right before I do something stupid. Speaking of which, has anyone seen Delgado? He said something about improving the embassy's security system, and now the doors are telling knock-knock jokes.
As if on cue, the main entrance announced,
Knock knock! Who's there? Unauthorized access! Unauthorized access who? Unauthorized access denied. Please try again, with more humor!
Delgado?
Wolf's voice echoed through the embassy. Some things, it seemed, would never change, and maybe that was the point. The galaxy had expected humanity to conform, to civilize, to become another orderly member of their structured society. Instead, humanity had done what it did best, turned everything upside down, added duct tape and irreverence, and somehow made it all work better than before. The Virex Accord had sent Earth a bomb. Earth had sent back a mirror. And in the reflection, the galaxy finally saw what it had been missing. The beautiful, chaotic, mischievous human art of giving a damn while not taking yourself too seriously. As parties went, it was a disaster. The Savari were trying to understand beer pong. The Dravari had discovered karaoke. The Arxans were learning that formal diplomatic gathering and humans were mutually exclusive concepts. It was perfect.
Hey,
Boomerang whispered to Ivy as they watched Boris teach alien dignitaries how to properly appreciate hard bass.
think we did good?
We turned attempted genocide into the galaxy's weirdest friendship. Yeah, I think we did good.
Cool. Want to hack their music system and play Never Gonna Give You Up?
Boomerang? No.
Boomerang, yes.
And somewhere in the chaos of what historians would call the diplomatic incident that somehow worked, the truth became clear. The best defense against extinction wasn't bigger weapons or better shield. It was being too weird to die and too stubborn to care what anyone thought about it. Humanity had saved itself by being aggressively, unapologetically human. The galaxy would never recover, and that was exactly the point. 1 year later. The annual Boom Day celebration on Earth had become the galaxy's most anticipated and feared holiday. Part memorial, part party, all chaos. Boomerang, now legally recognized as Earth's first AI citizen and winner of 3 comedy awards, was hosting the main event. Its opening line had already become legendary.
So, a bomb walks into a planet and says, "I'm here to delete you." And the planet says, "Bold of you to assume we're not already self-deleting." Anyway, that's how I met your mothers, fathers, and non-binary parental units.
In the audience, the original Crash Armor team watched with the satisfaction of parents whose child had grown up to be exactly as weird as they'd hoped.
Think the Accord regrets not just leaving us alone?
Wolf asked, sipping something Boris had assured her was probably not lethal.
Definitely.
Tom replied, watching 3 Arcs and diplomats attempt to understand a human meme.
But I think they're starting to enjoy it.
Stockholm Syndrome is a hell of a thing,
Delgado added, then paused.
Wait, should we weaponize that too?
No, everyone said in unison. On stage, Boomerang was reaching the climax of its set.
But seriously, folks, the real joke, they thought they were sending a weapon of mass destruction. Turns out they were sending me to the only species in the galaxy that would look at a planet killer and think, this needs a personality, and maybe some sick flame decals. I'm not saying humans are crazy, but actually no, that's exactly what I'm saying, and thank the cosmic void for that.
The crowd, human and alien alike, roared with laughter. Somewhere in the noise, chaos, and joy of survival, the message was clear. Send Earth your worst. They'll send it back improved, probably with a sense of humor, definitely with modifications that violate several laws of physics. And if you're very, very lucky, they might just save you from yourself in the process. The universe had a sense of humor after all. It had to. It had humans in it.